Thank you all for coming. We are very excited. This was a large turnout. There's over 100 people that signed up for this. And I don't know if all of them have made it here today or will be dropping in, but that tells us that this topic is resonating with people. And so we are really glad that you're here. And also, some of you, I think, are here just to support the mentor program. And let me tell you that we really appreciate that. My name is Christy Verarde. I am the program analyst with the California Early Childhood Mentor Program. The title of today's webinar, as you know, is Building Resilience and Practical Skills for Educators During Uncertain Times. All right, I want to do a little Zoom housekeeping, if you will. So Crystal, if you would move to the next slide, I would appreciate it. There we go. Okay. So I have three squares up there. The first one is to highlight the mute button. We are asking that you all stay muted during the webinar. If you have a question or comment, please use the chat box, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. That's below. Circle to the right, or the square at the right, is if you hear something that you agree with or you want to express your feelings, you can click on that and you can then click on either a clapping hands or a thumbs up, and you don't have to click on them again because they will go away on their own. And the last piece of information is about the chat box, and that's the last blue square. If you click on the chat box, it will stay open like a dialog box for you, and you can move it around on your screen if you want to, or you can open and close it during the webinar. Please leave any questions or comments for the panel in that box. I will be monitoring that chat box during our webinar and will summarize your questions and comments and then bring them up to the panel at the end of our time together during a Q&A session. Okay, well, that is it for me. I would like to move it now to our main facilitator, who is Crystal Gourdine. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Christy. We are so happy that you guys are here. I love seeing so many familiar faces on the webinar. I know so many of us are enduring this Zoom gloom or Zoom doom, whatever, but we're just going to lift up our space today because the Director Mentor Program as a whole, well, the Mentor Program and Director Mentor specifically felt like we needed to open up a space for us to just acknowledge who we are as professionals, but also as personal, just human beings that are living in this experience of a worldwide pandemic. And we wanted to just say that we hear you, we see you, and that we need to think about these things together, but just to open up a space to just be together and hopefully inspire some hope. So I just wanted to say thank you for being here. So as we start off today, I just want to say by way of introduction of myself, I've been a director mentor in the Contra Costa College coordinated system for more than 10 years, and I'm a former family child care provider, and I live in the Bay Area. And as we get started, Christy is going to offer just some soft, light music. We thought we would just get ourselves grounded and just bring some awareness to where we can open up our bodies and our minds and our spirits to be able to be attentive to the discussion today. And it really is meant to be a discussion. So if you are able to see the screen, and we wanted to offer that you might just get still for a moment and either close your eyes or just try to just settle into the space. We're going to just offer 3 minutes of quiet, reflective time. If you want to take some deep breaths, that would be great too. So I'm going to start the timer, and there might be some music that might be coming on shortly. So just I hope we're feeling a little bit more centered and grounded. And I just wanted to thank you for giving yourselves that space and honoring the parts of your body that are maybe feeling a little bit more tense, and acknowledging where you are finding spaces of peace and calmness and stillness. One of our central questions, for me at least, is this idea of who do I want to be during this time? And many of us through social media and other outlets have tried to find ways to check in with ourselves and to acknowledge this very real, incredible experience. And I wanted to offer that in this time where we're talking about trauma informed care and trauma responsive care, that in and of itself, we have to be attuned to who we are and how we want to show up in this moment in time for ourselves, our families, our communities, our childcare programs, our staff. But today, the central focus is really about who we are for ourselves and who we might be for each other. So I am showing a graphic now that came from the Center for Optimal Brain Integration. And it's an organization that I do some work with that does a lot of work around trauma-informed care. And it offers us a new way to think about a process. You might already have a way, again, to check in with yourself. We know that building this muscle of that constant noticing, observing where we are, tuning in, paying attention, and maybe making some shifts is really a powerful daily practice. And so, as you can see on the graphic, some of us are living in an experience where we might feel like we're in a fear zone. So what you see here across the different zones, fear zone, moving into learning zone, or even the growth zone, are some observable behaviors. We know we talk about that a lot in early childhood, about so many things we don't just have a notion about, but that we actually can start to notice what are the behaviors that are contributing to where I might be. So I wanted to offer this as one tool that you might choose to think about. Where am I right now? Am I in a place of fear? Am I moving into a learning zone where I'm identifying my emotions? Or am I in a growth zone and I'm actually not just bouncing back, but I'm actually bouncing forward, because we're going to talk about resilience a bit today. So I just wanted to offer this as a context for today. And so again, the question is, who do I want to be during this COVID-19 time? And what is my built-in warning system so that I can be a first responder to others? So we know that when we are tuned in and we know where we are, we can better equip not just ourselves, but other people. So I wanted to offer that as well. All right, let's see here. So we wouldn't be the mentoring program without reminding ourselves of how does our mentoring triangle provide a foundation and in some ways a framework for thinking about this time as well. And as you may have already heard, that our panel today are really wonderfully selected director mentors who have different experiences, but we know a lot of what we know and we do comes from this idea of reflection, collaboration, and commitment. So this idea that even in this present, maybe feeling intense moment, that we can step back and look at it from being in it, but also from the outside. What are the things that are really important? How can I, again, pay attention and notice? How am I coming into this space? Am I giving myself time on a day-to-day basis to just reflect? Collaboration. How am I reaching out to others, valuing their lived experiences, offering something, maybe sometimes receiving, so that ongoing collaborative staying in touch with others, which is why we're here today. The commitment piece, I think, related to our current webinar and context, is around what are the commitments and expectations I'm making for myself? Am I offering grace and compassion for how I'm showing up right now? Am I working with reasonable expectations? How am I protecting my own time for self-care and to lean into things that are important to me, knowing what my own beliefs and values are? So again, I think the mentoring triangle really gives us an additional context for a lot of the ways that we're moving, be it personally or in our work and in our practice. All right. All right. So with that, I think it's ready to hear. We're ready to hear from those of you that are on the webinar. So if you can reach to your chat button, I would love to know, where are you residing right now and what is bringing you joy? So if you don't mind just chatting into the chat box, everyone, where are you zooming in from and what is bringing you joy right now? And Christy is going to share some of what we're seeing in the chat.
We have Wilma from LA, Sarah from Orange County speaking with her friends and students through Zoom and FaceTime. Irma from San Diego, yay, being with family. Kay Autumn from San Francisco, my staff's bad jokes are bringing me joy right now. Sheila from San Francisco, cooking and knitting. A lot of spending time with family. Christy Verarde from Pleasant Hill, she's learning how to cook. A lot of family and friends, gardening. I like this one. Monica from, doesn't say where, but wine, chocolate, and yoga. Like that. San Bernardino, Estella, training teachers through Zoom. Anna, Clovis, bike riding with her children.
Very nice. Thank you, Kristy. So we've got a really great cross section of people across the state. Yay, California. We're showing up today. And again, we're so thankful you guys are here. And we know that we are inundated right now with so many webinars. We're hoping that today feels slightly different. And so we've invited, as I mentioned, 3 amazing director mentors, your colleagues, my colleagues. So we feel like we're just going to lean in together and give each other some time and some space. So we are going to have a little bit of a conversation. And as Kristy mentioned, there's quite a number of us on the call. And so we want to acknowledge that you might chat a question and Kristy's going to try to capture it. We may not be able to get to everybody's question over the course of our webinar, but I want to say that if you stay tuned to the end, we're going to be sharing with you how we're going to try to do a follow-up webinar just to again respond to some of the questions that we might not be able to get to this afternoon. So we've invited Kristy Ford, Jenn Greenaway, and we've also invited Squirrel. And right now I can't remember Squirrel's last name. Squirrel, you're there, right?
She's muted.
I'm unmuting.
Okay, she's muting.
Booth.
But you guys know Squirrel. You know Squirrel.
Yeah.
I would also like to mention that Jenn is a mentor teacher. And so we also have mentor teachers besides.
Thank you.
And on the panel.
Thank you, Kristy. I appreciate that. So I have the pleasure of introducing our 3 wonderful colleagues. So I'm going to read just a little bit about them, and then we're going to jump right in with Kristy. So get your questions and comments ready, because I think Kristy Verarde is ready to roll. So we've got our other Kristy, who is currently a director mentor from San Diego, sunny San Diego, hopefully, and the director of a child care center that is actually operating right now for employees of Scripps Health in the San Diego area. Kristy has been in the field for over 30 years as a director mentor for 13 years. And the center that she's working with right now serves children ages 3 months to 5 years old. And the parents are literally frontline leaders, mostly doctors and nurses, who are caring for COVID patients. We're so thankful that you carved out time to be with us. Our colleague Squirrel has been in early childhood for 37 years, 30 years as a director. So I just want to say, like, big shout out. She's worked with infant through school age programs in private schools, state funded schools, and parent co-ops. And she's been a director mentor for 11 years. So thank you, Squirrel, for being with us. And last but certainly not least, we've got Miss Jenn, co-owner of a childcare program in Thousand Oaks. As a mentor teacher, she comes to us, and she's president of the Ventura County chapter of the California AEYC. Oh, we love that. And she is a lifelong learner. We aspire all to be that, hopefully, with a passion for brain development. So she's our go-to for that. And she loves having conversations about growth mindsets. So necessary right now, and resilience. And she's presented on these topics for a while now, I think over 5 years, and sharing what she's learned and really inviting us to reflect, which we'll do some of that today, hopefully, about the brain and how we can think about these kinds of topics during these challenging times. So I just want to say thank you and welcome. So let's get going with our very first panelist, Miss Kristy. Thank you for being with us, Kristy. So we know that you're coming from sunny, hopefully sunny, San Diego. Is it sunny today?
It's very sunny, thank you.
Wow, so I'll just have to channel some of that sun. Although in the Bay Area, we do have some sun today. I wondered if you want to share with us as we jump in, what's bringing you joy right now?
So what's bringing me joy is my 19-year-old son is graduating from San Diego State, the first youngest person to graduate in the field of finance at San Diego State.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot to bring you joy for sure. So let's jump in with a question that I think will evoke a lot of enthusiasm and interest. So as someone whose school has been open to serve children for first responders, and we're so thankful for your service, what are some of the worries and strengths that have surfaced in your staff throughout this crisis? And I think we're now in like month 2 of this.
Yeah, so I'm give you a little bit about my story, so it kind of relates and you can understand how mine's a little bit more unique. I know a lot of people are trying to open up their centers and get reestablished, and some have already been open. But just a little bit of an overview about COVID in San Diego. On March 9th, seems like a long time ago, but Scripps Health was notified by San Diego County Public Health Services that a patient at Scripps Green Hospital had tested positive. This patient was the second one with community spread of COVID. And if you understand, the majority of our parents that we serve began telling us about the situation that was literally across the street. You can walk to the hospital from here. I began to speak to the parents who are doctors who were literally in tears. I've never seen the fear. These people are very strong, they're very compassionate. They spoke about the safety of going to work and being vulnerable. On that current day, that will be forever grounded in what I remember. Of course, they were, worried about the staff, worried about their own children, and of course, most of the staff, who have been exposed at that time were under quarantine because the patient did walk into Scripps Health without people didn't have PPE on. So some of those people had already been in quarantine. So these are the people that were working directly with that COVID patient. So I saw on that day when everyone at work began to understand that this virus was getting ready to change our lives. I knew very well. I could see it in the parents' body language, the way they hurried their kids out of the building. I could see it in the staff eyes as I teared up, walking around, giving them, information. And the first question I remember is like, what are we going to do and how are we going to continue this? So, and again, I'll kind of go in about my shifting and mindset, but that was just a little bit of an overview about how, what is happening what's happening now.
Yeah, thank you. So what kinds of changes have you seen in the emotional health of your staff during this time?
So when I talk about shift in mindset, I think we go back to that initial fear. Being the leader and the director at the center, you all know very well that, they're looking to you to role model. I knew very early on that I had to do a quick turnaround, and I had to focus in back on the mission of what we're doing here and who we're serving and why. I had to change the way I communicate because, in child development, we're very compassionate, we're very touchy-feely, we like to hug and communicate. So it really took a mindset for me to change the way I was communicating. I saw a lot of fear, but I saw anger, and I also saw a lot of joy. So I think the steps that I took to provide the staff with the support, the first thing that I did is I reached out to my mentor program in the community. That Friday we have parent-teacher conferences. We had 110 in enrollment. That Monday I came in, we had 30. So, I reached out to my mentor program in the community, other people who were running hospital childcare centers like UCSD. I knew very quickly on that I had to get protective gear for my staff, supplies, cleaning supplies. of course, you know, we were doing a lot of this prevention since January. I knew I had to get accurate information. There was a lot of information going around the media that was scaring people. I looked for donations. And the most thing that I did is I asked for help from others around me. I asked for help from the parents that were essential workers and did not have the ability to stay home. And again, I was also getting the word out for advocacy. I was using my social media, my supervisor in the community. One of the things that I felt was really hard, because I'm a people person and I like to be around the staff. And as soon as we got the social distancing rules and things from licensing, I started checking in text. I would use text, email. I was connecting with Skype. I was also watching for issues that my staff were having. I could tell very quickly that my twins were changing. I was making sure I was listening very closely to them and what their problems were, and taking notes, or what kind of fear and anger or joy they were having. Also, my company that I currently work for, they offer virtual music therapy online. They got us a lot of food donations. And again, one of the things for sure is to make sure you check in to see if someone can cover or if they need a break, but check in with your staff often, because there's a lot of roller coaster emotions kind of going on.
Wow. Thank you. I heard several strategies about just very technical, but then also the social emotional side, which we know is so important for ourselves and for our children. Any other strategies or tools that specifically helped you develop a communication or a safety plan that really seemed to alleviate any misinformation? Because as you mentioned, you reached out to the Director Mentor Program because you didn't really know where to really go and help to navigate. Anything else you want to offer?
I just like to really talk about the Director Mentor Program, because I took a lot of my information and leads from the ones in my community. They had a lot of resources, I did too, and we shared a lot. But I think, you know, what I kind of initially found out was very helpful is I took the licensing pin letters, which were coming out, had read through them myself, so it wasn't so confusing to the staff, and I sent out the main points. Then I remember just adding the thank yous to all the staff. You know, thank you for what you do, coming in, serving these children who don't have options. But, you know, there's a lot of information out there, but I feel like the staff were more appreciative with the licensing letters that were more down to where they understood the main points of what they were dealing with, ratios, that type of thing. But that's kind of what I do with strategies, and it changes every day. It depends on how the direction is going for the mood and the center and how many we're serving.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate you, and we appreciate having your perspective, because this thing, like you said, is changing, and you have been really, really, really such a resource. I've learned so much from you just in our conversation. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you. So let's pivot and check in with Squirrel. And you guys heard a little bit about her. She has many, many years of experience in the field. And one of the ideas that we are looking forward to hearing from her is about her recent experience just a few years ago when we were daunted in some ways with the fires in Northern California, Southern California. I think there's so many touch points for us. And so before we jump in, Squirrel, you want to share with us any fun, beautiful thing that's bringing you joy right now?
Well, I think spending my time with my 6.5-year-old granddaughter, helping her with her distance learning, lots of gardening, lots of walking, and lots of just communing with Mother Nature.
Wonderful. Well, your smile says it all.
And you know what? 37 years, I really don't feel that old, so that's a good thing. It's been a wonderful profession, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here. And I just mentioned that one of the reasons we're so glad you're with us, among many, is your recent experience with the fires. And, you know, I think with all the information that's coming, one of the ways that I really feel like we can connect with each other is to hear stories. And I wonder if you could share with us maybe a brief story of your work as a director mentor and any takeaways that you feel that you learned from that maybe you can share with us.
Right. You know, and I do have to say right away that as leaders in the ECE field, we are by nature versatile, flexible, multitaskers all the time. We're not strangers to emergencies. We deal with emergencies every day in our schools, from the staff that doesn't show up and licensing's walking through the door, or the plumbing that breaks down and 32 children have to get ready for nap. You know, demanding emotional parents who wants our time right then and there as we're supposed to be giving a teacher a break. I mean, we have lots of emergencies, and resiliency for us is a tool. I mean, we use it all the time. It's very important that we incorporate that. But when those natural disasters strike, it's a whole new level of trauma in our lives. Situations not anticipated just uproot everything, changes our whole, you know, immediate future. We go into that flight or fight mode. You know, what are we going to do? And how do we find the resiliency to, you know, overcome those unplanned situations that affect on our lives and affects everybody working around us? It's not just us, it's our staff, it's our families. So we have to consider all that. When in 2017, as most of you know, we had a huge firestorm tore through our community. In a matter of hours, more than 5,000 plus homes, businesses, and schools were down. It's just a matter of hours. And, you know, how does the director deal with that? If you're the person whose school burned down, you know, how do you confront that? I mean, you know, how do you come back from that and have your resiliency intact? A very wonderful director here up in Santa Rosa, Claudia, her school, St. Rose. It was her dream school. She had a wonderful staff, a fabulous program. They were very proud of what they did. The families were all very engaged. And on that horrific night, that firestorm destroyed her school in about 30 minutes. It just leveled it. And many of the homes of the children that went there were also destroyed. And she said that, and I talked to her about this, she said that even knowing that maybe the fire, that her school was in the line of the fire that evening, nothing really prepared her for going there the next day with the police escort and seeing what was left of her school, which was basically nothing. It was just smoldering ruins, everything was gone. She had 1 hour to take photographs for like insurance companies, to kind of wrap her head around what, you know, what that meant. She said that they told her to kind of look around for anything that maybe they could, you know, save. Obviously, there wasn't anything. She said very emotionally that she found a bucket and a couple of toys up in the playground near the sandbox. And for her, that was just like, you know, to hold that dear to her. And when she, you know, seeing her dream school go completely gone and thinking all the records were gone, the money they had made at a telethon that weekend was gone because it hadn't been put in the bank yet. And she said on the way home, the shock was pretty overwhelming, that, you know, at that point she started crying for herself, for her staff, for the families, you know, for the school, for the loss. It was quite emotional for her. Very personal, obviously, for any of us that have to go through something like that. But she knew that she's a very strong person, and she really looked inward and thought about the resilience that she may have to confront all this. The very next day, she called her staff. She called all 56 of the parents, the families that she could get a hold of. You know, dealing with her personal loss and the loss of everybody else was quite overwhelming. You know, what did that look like for her? She said she just didn't know immediately what she would do. Was she strong enough to continue? What did that look like as far as rebuilding goes? She had, you know, a lot of questions, massive questions. You know, how was this going to affect her future? And the good thing at this level was that her school is on an elementary school campus. And so she met immediately with them 2 days later. And they were, their school had been damaged also. Parts of that had been burnt, not as drastically as hers, but they did approach her and they did ask her, are you going to rebuild? What is your idea behind this? What do you want to do? And she, felt like they did tell her they totally supported anything she wanted to do moving forward. And she went back home and talked to her husband and really thought about it all and, what that would take. And at that point, I'm not sure how it happened, but it was a contractor that was the legacy family for the school. And he came forward and he said, I will help you. I will help you rebuild the school. I will help you, circumvent all the permits, help you through the whole transition of building a school. And so that really inspired her to, okay, maybe we can do this, right? And so she reached out to the community and there's a Lutheran church here in town that actually rented a couple of rooms to her for a few months for the kids, for her program. And then the elementary school brought in some portables so that the kids can move closer to, where their homes were, or those. So they had their portables going on. And at that point, she said that the support from the community was phenomenal because I guess schools came forward and they donated toys and furniture and everything that, she would need to get the portables up and running. She was able to get assistance from Sonoma County Education. And we have a wonderful organization here in Sonoma County called 4C. It's the Community Care Child Services. They were phenomenal also in helping her, supporting her through this. And then she reached out to the mentor program and she said that was pretty much icing on the cake because the mentor program came in and for her, we were the sounding board. We were the supporters of her actions. We were the people that helped her, with that decision making and assuring her that, she was going in the right direction, that she was doing everything she needed to do. Because you need to have that kind of support from people in the field. The really awesome thing about this story is that her rebuild took 1 year. And for anybody that knows and has been through anything like this, that's pretty amazing. I mean, usually it takes 2 to 3 years to get your house built. And so the community really supported her, stood behind her, and helped her through this astronomical effort. And she said there were times during that year where she was like, did I really need to be, can I really do this? Is this really going to happen for me? But the mentors were on board, the families were on board, the fact that she had that wonderful communication piece with her families, with her staff, with the school board. The takeaway on this for her also, she said, was that there was really nothing there to prepare her for this, for that emergence, that trauma, that disaster. Now with the new virus thing, she feels like she has to step up because she knows all the tools to be in place to help support the families and support her teachers. But back then she did not. She said that, there was nothing in our disaster plans to help her. She said that the relationship building that she had done all those years was ultimately the all-important thing, to work with the teachers, the families, and those community relationships that she'd nurtured. That helped her when she was looking for reconstruction, resources, materials, everything that she needed to build a school in 365 days. She said that, sharing their stories and experiences, the families, the teachers, coming together, they came together for a lot of just community outreach for each other, talked amongst themselves, looked at their vision for the school that they wanted. So it was that support, that collaboration with everybody that really made this all happen for her. And by the way, the school is beautiful.
Wow.
Her new school is quite phenomenal.
That is an awesome story. Oh my goodness.
It was quite heartbreaking when she was telling it to me, but then at the end it was so uplifting. To provide that, to plug into that resilience that she had to make that all happen.
Wow. Thank you for sharing how you approached it as a director mentor and all the range of feelings and emotions it almost overlaps with some of the ideas Kristy Ford mentioned around just the roller coaster, and the ways that you are tapping into the mentor program, but the community. And so I just see these kind of running themes throughout. And so I want to give way to our last panelist, Miss Jenn. Well, in the few times I've talked to you, you just have just this most amazing, beautiful spirit, and we're glad that you're here to join us. And one of the things that's so interesting to me about your kind of contribution to this conversation is the survey that you took the initiative to launch through your many roles in the community. And I'm wondering if you can just share with us some of the things you found by taking this survey, and maybe some of the rest of us might be thinking, well, maybe I could do something similar in my community. So could you share with us some of those findings?
Yeah, so for the Ventura County chapter of CAAEYC, it was about, I want to say we were maybe 4 or 5 weeks into this already. But you know, time has no meaning anymore. So it could have been more, it could have been less. But as a board, we were kind of talking about, you know, what's going on in the community, who's still open, who had to close. There were a lot of headlines about in our community about teachers losing jobs, teachers being furloughed. And so we really wanted to touch base with everyone in a meaningful way and find out what's really going on. So the way we did that is we put together a little bit of a survey and we sent it out to our membership. And sometimes you do things like that and you don't get much response. So we went in with pretty low expectations because we thought, you know, everyone has so much going on. We don't know, you know, what we're going to get back. But we were overwhelmed. The same day that we sent it out, we had over 30 responses right away. And then we had more trickle in. So we collected a lot of information. And one of the things we asked was, we just wanted to know how everyone was feeling. You know, so whatever's going on in your little pocket of the community, how are you doing? And across the board, probably over 80% of the respondents said they were feeling overwhelmed. And they were feeling overwhelmed by just the circumstances, how quickly things had changed and what was going on. But a lot of them were specifically overwhelmed by the changes to their work. So some of them were starting to do distance learning, which we all know in early childhood, that's something that we aren't really familiar with or comfortable with, but we had to shift the way we were communicating with people. So universally, the feeling was overwhelmed, but we were also kind of amazed by how much communication we got about the ways that people had already adapted. So many of the teachers were telling us how they were connecting with their families and how they were connecting with the children. And so even while they were feeling overwhelmed, they were already doing this amazing work and they were already adapting so quickly, which I think we all do, that we don't really realize until we have a chance to reflect back on it. Like, wow, it's just been a couple of weeks and we've already changed the way that we're doing things. So then another question we had asked, because of the articles we've been seeing in the news, all the headlines, we asked who was considering staying in the field or leaving the field based on these events. There was one industry in our area where 104 teachers had been laid off. And so we wanted to know, you know, are we going to lose these teachers or are they going to stay in the field with us? And of every single person who has responded to date, only one person said that they weren't sure, but they didn't say they were leaving. They just said they weren't sure yet. Everyone else said, of course, absolutely. I wouldn't even consider leaving, which again speaks to how adaptable we are. And sometimes we don't even realize.
Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Well, the survey to me is such an inspiration that in the moments of just sheer uncertainty, which was at the very beginning of that you had the mental capacity to just be able to check in on other people. And it reminds me of that process around, where am I? Do I have something to give and to offer? So I think all of us evaluating, where am I right now? am I in the fear zone, the learning zone, or growth zone? So thank you for articulating what you were able to do. So thank you for that. So speaking of that fear zone, what would you say to directors and teachers who might be experiencing fear right now?
Sure. I would say, just like we tell the children, just like we tell their parents, it's really okay to feel those feelings. So if you're feeling afraid, usually there's a reason why you're feeling afraid, and you need to take a little time
Mhm,
to tune in and think about that.
mhm,
And you need to
mhm.
validate your own feelings. So sometimes we just need to take a little time to reflect on the experience.
Right.
And when we give ourselves that space, sometimes we're able to work through those feelings, or we're able to come up with a way to deal with those feelings. A lot of times it's about, okay, I'm feeling afraid. What am I afraid of? What can I control? What's outside
Right.
of my control? And I think, as Kristy Ford was talking about, as we go through this experience together, we're finding a lot of ways that we can have control, and things that we can do, proactive things that we can do to help to
Yeah,
ease those fears.
I love that. I feel like what you're just referring to is that practical side of resilience that I know you've been spending a lot of time thinking about and talking about. And we know there's so much out there now, the buzzword around brain science. And I wonder if you want to share about resilience as a framework. And I think all of us have been talking about how we're already doing so many things. But I'm wondering, as we think about continuing to go through this experience that might feel very traumatizing, what would you say to us just with that lens or that framework?
Sure. I think one of the most important things for us to think about are those protective factors, because those are the things that help us to be resilient through experiences like this. And we
Mm,
know that when we talk about trauma, we know trauma isn't actually an event that happens to you, it's the way that that event is processed. So it's important for us to process as we
mm,
go as best we can, which, again, as everybody has said, that's kind of the heart of the mentor program, that reflective piece. So
mhm,
I know that everybody who's connected to that practice
mhm.
has the ability to do this stuff. Um, so the protective factors that we want to keep in mind are that connectedness, that human connection, which I think is something that's been a little bit difficult for some people during social distancing, because they feel isolated, and some people have had to isolate. So they feel
Mhm.
isolated, and they feel a little cut off from that connectedness, which is so important for us to get through experiences like this. But there's a lot of creative ways we can find to connect with others, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So that's an important piece to keep in mind. And then also thinking about just being mindful, as we've talked about today, thinking about those little things that are bringing you joy,
Yep.
um, and also just those routines and rituals that make life feel normal,
Right.
and things that make each day feel a little bit special to you and make you feel a little bit grounded in your own life. Those are things to make sure that you're taking the time for.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Jen, for offering that reminder to us about the ways that we are bouncing back and bouncing forward, and for sharing with us some of the practical avenues that you've explored as a mentor teacher. So thank you. And I want to just say thank you for this beginning conversation, because I feel like there's so much richness in the entire group of us that are on the call, but in particular, the three of you that have shared, Kristy, Squirrel, and Jen. And the stories and the strategies, I think, will continue to hopefully resonate with us. And again, Verarde is going to share with us some ideas, um, some of what we've taken away from this in the next few days. So let's pivot to a few resources that Jen is going to share with us. All
Ta-da!
right, Jen, you're up.
Okay, so the first resource that we wanted to share was, of course, the Early Childhood Mentor Program. Um, Second, we wanted to share the California Map to Inclusion website. And then third is a resource that Squirrel had shared with us, Dovetail Learning, which offers a lot of information on resilience and more practical tools for supporting that in yourself and others.
Thank you. And we know that there are so many resources out there. We just chose a few that really resonated with us as facilitators of the call. You've heard from the panelists that they have really directed a lot of attention back to the mentor program as one hub to kind of disseminate, you know, where should we really go? So again, we're thankful to the mentor program for opening the space for us. And because we started this hour together by thinking about how can we ground ourselves and honor who we are and what we need to do to heal ourselves personally so we can do the work that we need to do, I wanted to just share with you all a little message of what I consider hope or inspiration. And we're going to, in some ways, kind of bring it back to this idea of gratitude, which I know many of us are hearing a lot about. So I wanted to share a poem that I think really sets us on a path of, you know, maybe just renewing our hope in our spirit. And then we want to open it up for some Q&A, because again, this is a conversation. So if you just give me just one quick second, I am going to share with you all what I feel is a really nice message of hope. So let me bring it back to our last slide here. I want to say thank you for the gift of your time. And I'm going to pause and give way to Christy Verarde, who is going to close us out for the main webinar. But I'm hoping that if you are interested and have the time, that you'll join us for some Q&A. And I just want to say it's not a question of if we'll get through this, but how. And my belief is that we'll get through this together. So thank you so much.
The first one is from Sarah McClendon, and she says, one of my biggest fears is that when my school opens back up, I won't be able to hug or snuggle my children. Is that the case? Honestly, I think about it all the time. Can someone on the panel, does anybody on the panel want to address that?
I can address that. I know that was one of our fears too. With the older children, we have communication in our circle time or daily. We do like elbow to elbow. We talk about, you know, with the older children about, you know, washing their hands, understanding germs, those types of things. We are cleaning, keeping the classrooms clean and that type of thing. But if you have communications with the older children, they understand what the process is and why. They're pretty good about making sense of everything.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else on the panel want to add to that, or? No, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question, which is, what does it feel like to wear this protective gear in a preschool setting, and how do the children react? And one person is asking, is it just for the teachers, or do the children have to wear it also?
Do you want me to answer that again?
Yes.
Okay. So currently right now, all of our teachers have PPE, which is gloves and masks. And children under 2, it's recommended that they do not wear masks, from my understanding. But some of the older children their parents have brought the masks in, and we're okay with that. The children in general, we had conversations with them. If anyone has a book out, I'd love to know about. There's a video that's kind of going around through like KPBS about wearing masks and, you know, why we wear masks. We were also very scared that the children were going to be scared. And we had actually went through this a couple years ago with the flu. We all had to wear masks here. So I think just being honest and open and understanding and letting the parents know what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like when you come in here. You know, just being honest with your communication. Children are so resilient for everything. They really just want to be loved and played and want to play. They're really good about bouncing back and understanding why.
All right, I think this will go to you again. This is from Christine Olson. Hi, Christine. She's asked, can you please describe the protocols you have put in place in the classroom so that your center is aligned with the health department guidelines?
Yeah, so it's really hard because there's a lot of information going around and you kind of sometimes don't know what to do or what to put out or what kind of decisions to make with this type of situation, because it's very unique what we're dealing with because these doctors and nurses are dealing with COVID patients. But what I typically did again is there's a couple of handouts from licensing that just came out about opening up a new center and what to do. So I use a lot of that. Protocols for cleaning, protective gear and those types of things. So I really do list out everything for my staff and list out everything for the parents so the parents can also understand what we're doing to keep everyone safe here. And again, it's a change in mindset because we're limiting one parent in the building at a time. All of our parents have to put on gloves and a face mask. We're asking parents to limit the interaction, quick pick up and drop off. Some centers are doing, no parents in the building. So it kind of just depends on what you want to do and how you want to handle the situation. But again, I can't stress enough that keeping everything clean constantly every 2 hours, and everything that comes out is just really to find your resources. And again, the mentor program has been incredible, at least in San Diego, about connecting together and having a lot of resources out there.
All right.
Christy, I wanted to add that if you guys are looking at the chat, I know there's been some resources that are there. So you might be able to copy and paste. I saw Sheila Norman posted a really great resource that she's maybe passionate about. So just remembering that. And I want to make sure that we're addressing programs that have mixed age groups, maybe family childcare with younger babies. And there's some questions coming up around infants and toddlers.
Yes.
And I do want to just add and then give way to Christy Verarde, that in addition to gloves and masks, that there are programs that care for infants and toddlers, that they're also using smocks, that they are changing as they're soiled. So that's something, if you're in a director supervisor position, that might be an additional kind of material that you might want to have on board, because we know we need to hold babies when they need to be fed, and toddlers may or may not understand about the social distancing. So I just wanted to add those couple of things, but there's some great ideas you guys are sharing in the chat box. So keep it going.
Yes, I love, Tiffany says down here, we do the fist bump explosion. And the preschoolers really seem to enjoy that. So that's their way of
Hi, Christy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Michael.
Hi, this is Dr. Michael Haggard. I'm back. I was actually on 2 different Zoom sessions at the same time. I really enjoy looking at the chat because it's keeping me in tune with what you guys are doing. I also wanted to share that since we're having conversations regarding proper procedures for students and staff when we come back, as some of you may know, I work at a big school district, LA Unified. A couple of days ago, I saw one of my idols, Holly Alyssa Bruno, and she had a wonderful speaker. Forgot her name, but she was on there talking about some of the things you can do when children are having those kinds of issues, where we typically would be hugging them, supporting them, touching them, making them feel better, and so forth. And so some of those strategies that she was speaking of did have to do with things like the Zoom, the bump, fist bump explosion and those kinds of things. But I just thought it was outstanding. So just stay abreast is what I would say of looking at some of those webinars and some of those skills and strategies. I'm just starting to start a whole list of things that I have to give out to my staff to be able to sort of arm them for when we return.
We've been really good about keeping the teachers distant on when they're playing with the kids, using, it's sunny San Diego, so we're utilizing the indoor-outdoor space. We're utilizing pods, different areas to make sure we try to not commingle as much as possible as we have in the past. But there's also a lot of other things, that you can do is, to keep, like I like the, keep that distance is to, sit on different sides, try to keep them apart as much as possible. It is really difficult, I can tell you. We keep limited activities out. So like, for instance, if we do something, it's not the whole classroom's open, it's more limited activities so we can clean right after. We rotate them and clean them in disinfectant every 2 hours.
I also think that the labeling, thank you for that information, that was great, but I also think the labeling for our children is more important than ever, particularly pictures, where maybe if you set up your classrooms we've been talking about setting our classrooms up with more centers and more things where children can go and explore independently. But also in those supposed centers or iPods, pictures I think should be evident that show how many actual students should be in that area. So for instance, maybe a center with one picture or one student cutout would show the students that necessarily, you know, I can't go there because someone's already there. Something like that, you know, arrows on the floor showing directional walk intentions. Any of those kind of things that keep the movement and the space understood by students, and the faster we can get them to understand sort of the new sort of way of being in the classroom is going to be really important.
Yeah, I just sent Christy Verarde a checklist that I established through the mentor program here in San Diego. It's really good. It has, you know, it talks about communication with the staff, the health and safety, you know, other areas that we tend to forget, like, and it's kind of about one opening up a new program, but you can utilize it with your program that's currently running. You know, we use a lot of disposable cups and utensils. We tend to kind of go, you know, really good with town. With the older group, we have caution tape between certain areas. I know it seems kind of weird, but, and then a walkway to the bathroom. So again, it's just rethinking outside of the box and really understanding that kids do need that touch and that feel, but we're changing the way we're doing it. It's definitely been enlightening, but we're learning day by day different strategies.
So
I wanted to.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I was going to add to what Michael said, that I heard in a webinar yesterday through PITC, that along with the SMOCs, to add to what he said about the visual prompts, that from the inclusion work, that you can make these visuals that you could wear as a teacher that say, I need space, and other things like that, that other students can, you know, hold up or have, but that a teacher with students can, you know, have that visual to say like, yeah, I know that whatever, you might want to come closer to me, but we need to actually have space. So that's just another quick idea.
I agree. That's actually been one of the hardest things, is they can't see our expressions either as teachers because our face is covered. So sometimes the kids are trying to understand what we're saying, or if we're, you know, if we're happy, if we're sad. That was something that we do too. We have, we also put our name badges on. So some of the people that are new coming in here, you know, who we are, what we're doing. But yeah, that was really hard for us, that whole covering of the expressions. So, you know, talking to children or doing those signs would be perfect.
Let me just add one last thing connected to what Christy said. One thing that was mentioned is if teachers at home can take photographs of themselves without the mask on and have them there so that teachers can be reminded. And if you want to do different emotions, you can do that. But it's particularly good if you are collapsing centers and maybe you have new or different children, but you have that image of this is what the teacher really looks like. And it was also shared that even for infants and toddlers, when you have to wear a mask, that there is so much that they can read from the upper portion of your face. It's all this research or whatever. And I know it might seem counterintuitive, but they do say that between the upper part of your face that you can actually show quite a bit of emotion. And I know, like Christy said, it's hard to wrap our heads around it, but they say that there is research, especially if you have younger children and they might be in closer proximity.
Okay, I wanted to point out a couple of the resources being mentioned. First of all, Patricia Hall and her students in her club, they're writing a COVID-19 book, which will be virtually published pretty soon, and she leaves that there, some contact information for her. And then Sheila Norman had some information. Michelle St. Germain, our assistant director, has a link up in there. Sarah also says she knows of a school that's going to use clear face masks, clear face mask shields instead, so that the children will be able to see their faces. And Kim Jones is agreeing with Dr. Haygood's visual prompts. And Adrian says, has anybody tried wearing the masks that are made with the clear plastic document page? Seems like they would be good for reading a story so children could see the expressions. Maybe you just have that for special. And then the last thing here in the chat, How do you handle the sharing of toys? Do you clean in between each child's use? Christy, I would give that back to you.
So yeah, we actually clean the tables, or clean and disinfect it as typical before and after, and we limit the use of toys. I know it's kind of odd, but we can only put so much out because it has to be cleaned right after. We disinfect actually 3 times a day, door handles, anything that the children are coming in contact with, countertops, restrooms. You know, it is hard to find the time for that, but limiting that toys out is part of it, because the more you put out, the more you have to keep clean. So it's been a little bit challenging for the teachers, but they're rotating them in and out. We do a lot of outdoor play, you know, in keeping that group together with the same teacher and no commingling. And I feel like children at this age really need to play outside and be outside if it's possible in your community. We do walking field trips. We put up a thing for the parents to do walking field trips around the area. But you know, a lot of changes took place really quickly. So that's why it's really good to have a plan and action before you either open back up or you're starting to change the way you're doing things internally. I did send you like a resource checklist that we have here in San Diego that might help too.
Yeah, I will pass that out. If you could send it to my email too, I'll make sure that I send that out to everybody that was on the call.
I know a lot of people I see are asking about the name of my center. So I work for Scripps Health. It's a big hospital organization here in San Diego. We have 14,000 employees. They're frontline leaders. I'm talking medical doctors working in nursing homes. We have nurses working in emergency room. All of them have been in contact with a COVID patient, the ones that are here that have been honest with us. They're taking their own safety too and not staying with the child. Sometimes they'll stay in a different place. We're open from 6:45 to 6:15. We haven't changed our hours. They've really needed it. But our center is actually called Gluck Child Care Center. It's GLUCK. And we get the name Gluck from a donation that she gave for the hospital to build a child care center here. And we're here dealing with those essential employees that don't have options to stay home. We really have to understand that these children don't know, you don't want them to be scared. You want them to come in and have a really enjoyable time here. We're really trying to keep them happy and being pleasant with our daily communication, even though sometimes psychologically we're really scared inside. And it was a big mindset turnaround for a lot of our staff. So I can't stress that enough, is like really, you know, being positive. And it's hard, but you have to.
So I think that actually is the end of those particular questions. I really want to encourage you, if something ruminates and comes up for you, to get in touch with me, because we would like to offer this again and have people talk about just what plans they have moving forward, what they want to do. I would like to open it to our panel to give one last final shout out. If there's anything that you have to say, it's not necessary, but anybody have anything to finish up with? No, okay. So I do want everybody to know that I will be sending out that survey link again, and that I will be looking for any questions. We really appreciate that you were here with us today. We know this is a scary time. We want to be here to support you. I want to end with a highlight of something. I want you to get ready and go on our website, not only to see the recording of this if you want to, but also another project that I have been working on is about ready to go up, and it's called Mentoring Moments. And what you will see is the first of hopefully many. I've got 3 or 4 ready to go up on our website in the next 2 days. And they'll be about 3 to 5 minutes long. And basically, it's a video of children sandwiched by a mentor teacher on either side, explaining what you're going to see and why it's important. And then you'll view the children, and then there'll be an explanation again of what was there and the rich learning that took place. And I really think that you will enjoy them. So I'm hoping that in a couple days they will be up on our website, and I encourage you to go there, www.cecmp which is the initials for the California Early Childhood Mentor Program.org. All right, that's it. Stay tuned for what's coming up. And I want to thank you again, everybody. We wish you well. We wish you health. And goodbye.
Bye.